Welcome back to AMN Academy, and this is Irvin Temporal of 9.09er English. It's the time of the month when we feature an IELTS passer. So, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight, we have Nurse Sheena, who actually got stellar grades in her IELTS examination. This is 9.09er English and AMN Healthcare International, highlighting the success stories of our dear IELTS passers. Every month, we feature one IELTS passer every third Monday of the month. And every first Monday of the month, we conduct live lectures on IELTS listening, reading, writing, and speaking to help the dear nurses of AMN worldwide get the required band scores for their English proficiency examination. And don't forget, every second and fourth Monday of the month, it's the NCLEX Review Center partners of AMN Healthcare International to give you free lessons on next generation NCLEX. Before anything else, we would like to greet all the nurses worldwide because recently we have celebrated the International Nurses Day. We love what you are doing. So in return, 9.09er English and AMN Healthcare International would like to return the favor and help you pass your English examination. For those of you who are not aware, AMN Healthcare International sponsors a free review and free English examination to qualified nurses. All you have to do is to visit the website of AMN Healthcare International, or you can send a direct message to AMN Facebook page. Guys, the first step is always to pass your NCLEX. That is always the first suggestion if you want to pursue your American dream. But after you pass your NCLEX, that's when we move on to the next step, and that is your English examination. That is why for tonight we have an IELTS passer, Nurse Sheena, to share her success story. Perhaps Nurse Sheena can now join us here on Facebook. Let me also double check. Yeah, there you go. Nurse Sheena, good evening. Will you please greet our live viewers worldwide?
Hello to our viewers here at AMN and 9.09er. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to whichever part of the world you're joining this class. Hi, I'm Nurse Sheena.
We are so excited to hear your story. So, before we go to the exciting part, like the actual examination experience, first, let's talk about your preparation. We always recommend 1 to 2 months of review for our applicants who would like to take their English examination. So, let's start with your experience. There are 4 subtests, right? There's listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Of the 4, let's begin with your easiest subtest. Will you please tell our live viewers worldwide which subtest you find the easiest and why?
I think the easiest subtest would always depend on a specific person. I mean, in my case, since I use the English language a lot at work and even in my personal life, so I would say the easiest subtest would be speaking. And I think I relied so much on the comments of my coaches. Some of them would some of them have given me very early go signals to take the examination. Um, Probably because they see some potential in me, and I actually listened so much to when they would think it would be best for me to take the test. So I relied on the coaching sessions and what they tell me whether I should book the examination or not. So, speaking wise be very would I found the speaking examination of IELTS very easy, and I also like that there's a bit of human intervention when it comes to the speaking examination of IELTS because I'm really speaking to a real human being. So that's why I find it very comfortable to answer your question, Sir Irvin.
Finally, someone said it. You know what? A lot of people are afraid of the IELTS examination because of the speaking test. Some of them don't want to talk to a human being. The others would just like want to look at the computer and answer questions. But you know what? The essence of the IELTS speaking subtest is just to have a casual conversation with your best friend. So when you are with your best friend, you're not anxious. You're not supposed to be nervous. And in the speaking subtest, it's very important that you are able to speak your heart out. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we always reiterate that in this examination, you do not need to be nervous, especially
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to impress the examiner. All you have to
Mm-hmm.
do is for you to express your thoughts, listen to the question, and make sure you are responding to the question. Now, speaking is an important subject for our dear nurses who have plans of going to the United States of America. Why? Let's take a look at the required band scores. So for IELTS speaking, it has to be 7, and overall band score 6.5. It was the case for the longest time. Like, I started teaching in this industry in May of 2006. So recently, May 6, 2026, I have celebrated my 20th year in the industry. And IELTS band score requirement never changed. In 2022, that was when other English examinations were accepted by HRSA for visa screen application. So now you can take other English examinations like PTE, OET, MET, TOEFL, and TOEIC. However, recently, like only May 12, HRSA released announcements that they're changing the band score requirements for the other English examinations like PTE, OET, and MET. But for IELTS, it's the only English examination with no band score changes. So if you'd like to check the source, please go to the website of HRSA, because there you will find the new band score requirements. And this is for people who are taking their English examination after May 12. So ladies and gentlemen, what's the basis for the band score requirements? The test date. Okay, so it's not when you applied for your visa screen, when you passed the NCLEX. No, our basis, your test date for your English examination. For IELTS, it's still a 7 in speaking and 6.5 overall band score. No grade requirement for listening, reading, and writing. You can get any grade in listening, reading, and writing as long as your speaking is 7 and your overall band is 6.5. As for the other examinations, you can just go to the website of HRSA to check the band score requirements. Now, Nurse Sheena mentioned earlier that she found the speaking subject easiest for her because she's just literally answering the questions. But for all candidates, there's one subject that we all consider to be challenging. For Nurse Sheena, what's your most difficult subtest?
Well, writing has always been very challenging for me, even in the beginning of my review. I found both tasks very difficult, primarily because I'm a nurse, so I don't really study pie charts, bar graphs. These things are very new to me. So, coming into IELTS and, being asked to interpret these things was really, really challenging in the beginning. And then eventually I got the hang of it. I realized that there's like a pattern in them somehow. So I actually liked writing task one before I started liking writing task two. I found Sir Irvin writing task two very challenging because the ideas have to come from me. Unlike
Mm,
with writing task one, where I'm just really, really dependent on the idea being fed to me, I was just like interpreting the data straightforward. Whereas in writing task two, I have to be a wide reader. I have to start reading, books. I have to, be in touch with the world, watch news, watch politics, because I have to write something up. They might ask me a question about it, and I need to know something, so I can talk about something. So there were so many preparations in my writing examination. So I found it really challenging in that sense.
In fact, the observation of Nurse Sheena is consistent with the performance of the candidates. If we look at the four components worldwide, IELTS test takers consider listening to be the easiest of them all, with a global average of higher than 7. And next to listening, it's actually the speaking subtest. So it's funny because a lot of people are afraid of the speaking subtest when in fact statistics actually tells us that this is considered to be the second easiest of candidates worldwide. Like what Nurse Sheena mentioned earlier, she considers speaking to be her easiest subtest. Okay, third subtest, it's reading. And yes, consistently, this is the Waterloo of the weakness of IELTS candidates, the writing subtest. But I have good news for you. If the bad news is people worldwide consider writing to be the most challenging subtest, what's the good news? If you're a nurse going to the United States of America, I mentioned this earlier, you do not need a specific grade in the writing subtest. You can get any grade in listening, reading, and writing as long as you're speaking and overall band is 6.5. So how do you get 6.5 overall? Well, the suggestion is a 6 in listening, 6 in reading, 6 in writing, and a 7 in speaking, that will give you 6.5 overall band score. Now, if you're going to look at other English examinations, there is a required score for listening, reading, and writing. That is for PTE and OET. But it's IELTS and MET with no band score requirements for listening, reading, and writing. So even if writing is considered to be the most challenging subjects or most difficult subjects for our candidates worldwide, good news is USA does not really care whatever grade you get in the writing subtest. Now, let's move on to your review and preparation. So, how would you describe your review or preparation, especially with the free English review offered by AMN for qualified nurses?
Well, I'm very glad that AMN paired with 9.09er. I I really wanted to, prepare with the right people who would tell me what I need to work on with my English skills. So I really found the review number one really flexible because I have work and I'm very busy most often times with my job. So I really find it difficult to attend live lectures. And so when I enrolled, that was one of my number one considerations. How flexible is the review? And so after I finished all the major lectures, the next thing I liked about the review offered by Niners, everything's downloadable and printable. Like I have a friend who's actually reviewing, and he has difficulty finding materials. He has materials, but they're not sure if it's of good quality. But with Niner, everything's there. It's easy. It's printable and downloadable, as I've said. And I find that very generous. I mean, why would you give these materials to students? But it was really, I find it really, really good for me. Thirdly, I liked the one-on-one coaching sessions. I relied so much to what my coaches say, what they tell me to work on. I listened to them. Like I think I made a common mistakes notebook. I listed all the comments they would give me, and the night before I took my test, I like read them and told myself not going to commit this tomorrow because it's a common mistake I've been committing all throughout. So yeah, it's really flexible. Thank you very much, Amen and Niner.
Once again, I would like to reiterate after you pass your NCLEX, AMN Healthcare International is going to endorse you to 9.09er English. You don't have to pay a single centavo for your free review. Just make sure you are qualified. So, for those of you who have not availed the free English review offered by AMN, all you have to do is go to the website of AMN Healthcare International, or you can message their Facebook page. Know the mechanics, and we'll just have to wait for you to be endorsed to us so that we can activate your online review dashboard so you, as Nurse Sheena mentioned, can attend live lectures, watch recorded lessons, download materials in PDF format, downloadable and printable for that matter. And number four, the highlight of the sponsorship or scholarship of AMN, daily one-on-one coaching, particularly in the speaking subjects, which is the most important subjects for our nurses to fulfill their American dream. So, Nurse Sheena highlighted earlier the availability of our dashboard. The question is, which of these strategies do you find to be the most effective? The one that helped you get the required band scores for your IELTS examination?
Well, there were so many tips that were shared during, the live lectures. Or yeah, I'm actually a recorded video student, so I learned from the recorded videos more than attending live lessons. There was one tip that I remember really resonated to me, which was said by Sir Brian. He described part two as like, making a speech and making an impact at the end of your speech because it's a time when you can speak freely for 2 minutes. So I think I really connected so much with that advice. I was asked a question for my part two about how often I take pictures. Describe a picture that you took. And I wanted to talk about the picture per se, but I felt like I have to talk about this in a deeper sense. So after I talked about the picture, I talked about how I like to take pictures of my family members because it kind of like encapsulates a memory I can never return to. So I kind of like dwelled on that, okay, discussion more than describing the picture, because I remember what Sir Brian said, make an impact in your part two. His Sir Brian's one of the lecturers at Niner, and I really learned a lot from him. Also from Sir Philip, and of course from the other lecturers too. So they're really, really good at what they do.
Thank you for that, Nurse Sheena. Now, I have a follow up question for you, and I'll give you enough time to answer, to think about this one. Of all the lecturers, of all the coaches of 9.09er, who would you recommend, especially for one on one coaching? So I'll give you time to think about it. Meanwhile, I'll read comments from our live viewers. So let's begin with the first comment. Zvirewi is from Zimbabwe. I would like to greet our live viewers worldwide. Well, good evening if you are in Asia. Good afternoon if you are in Africa or Europe. And good morning if you are in the Americas. And then V is also watching us from Zimbabwe. Alabi just greeted us. Hi, hello to our live viewers worldwide. And then Cyrus is watching us from Fargo, North Dakota, USA. Good morning to our dear live viewers in the Americas. Alabi said, I'm interested in applying to your agency after passing NCLEX. Well, you know what? Even if you are still preparing for your NCLEX, I would rather that you coordinate with AMN Healthcare International as early as now, so that after you pass your NCLEX, you will qualify for the free English review, so that you'll be endorsed to us by AMN Healthcare International. So as early as now, don't forget to visit the website of AMN, or you can send a direct message to the Facebook page of AMN. And then Zverev is asking for my WhatsApp number. Unfortunately, not work for AMN. I work with 9.09er English, the official review provider of AMN Healthcare International. So for all questions regarding the English program, you can just use the comment section and I'll answer while we are here doing the live session for now. And then Wamba is joining us from Kenya. Good afternoon to our dear brothers and sisters in Africa joining us for our Facebook live session now. And then Alabi has a question. Do you need to pass IELTS before applying to the agency? Okay, the answer is no. Cyrus is actually correct. You may start applying for agencies, you may start looking for an employer or a hospital even before passing your English examination. And for the United States of America, the required band score for nurses who are applying for EB3 immigrant visa, a 7 in speaking and 6.5 overall band score. Okay, and then Shaneza just greeted us. She's watching from England. Okay, so we have read the comments from our live viewers. If you have comments, kindly use the comment section and I'll read them later, maybe after Nurse Sheena answers the question. Who among the lecturers or coaches at 9.09 would you recommend for one-on-one coaching?
Well, every coach has their own approach. There are coaches who are very motherly, very loving. There are coaches who are very bubbly and would laugh with you when you say something silly. But I really like Coach Isa's coaching style. Number one, she's very sexy when she speaks. So when she says something and explains something, I feel like I have to speak like her because she sounds so smart, sexy in a smart way. I also like how kind she is and how she's also shows tough love somehow. So she's like the perfect balance of, all the rest of the coaches. But I like actually everyone.
So shout out to Miss Isa. Your 9.09 reviewees, coaches, and lecturers alike love you. So now let's move on to the next question. Let's focus on your English examination. Well, we've already highlighted earlier that there are 6 English examinations that you can use for your US visa screen application. But recently, HRSA removed TOEIC. That means to say you're left with 5 options. Now, IELTS and TOEFL are the top 2 recommendations of AMN because these are the ones accepted in literally all states. So if you decide to change a state at one point, well, IELTS and TOEFL are accepted in any state. So yeah, you may go ahead and pick either of the two. For the other English examinations, Please take note that they have limited recognition in state boards of nursing. So there are certain state boards that do not accept PTE, OET, and MET. So you have to double check with AMN which English examination is accepted in the state you're planning to go to. Now, Nurse Sheena over here has taken IELTS. So let's ask Nurse Sheena, why did you take IELTS even if there are other English examinations available in the market?
For two reasons, Sir Irvin. Number one, I initially planned on taking IELTS in my countryside. I'm in Leyte. So IELTS is widely available, and I don't need to go to another city just to take the examination there. It's available in my city, but in the end, I decided to take the exam in Manila. So, but even if I took the examination here, it's available here. So for that reason, it's cost efficient. You don't have to pay huge hotel fees or airfare. Secondly, as I've mentioned in the beginning, I like that I can talk to someone. Some
Mm.
people may find this very nerve wracking, but my examiner was a little bit intimidating initially, but she was actually helpful somehow. So I think I yearn for that when it comes to these things. Even when it comes to English exams, I would like to speak to someone and connect to them. So I think because it wasn't just me talking to the screen, I was with the screen, but I was talking to someone. So I feel like I like this examination better in that sense.
Thank you for that. Now let's move to the highlight of this Facebook Live session. Please tell us about your actual examination experience. What happened? Like, how early were you? Were you running late? And what happened after the written exams? How long did you wait for your speaking subtest? Were the invigilators friendly? So tell us more about the actual examination experience to help our future passers set their expectations as well.
Yeah, so the first examination I had was listening, and we were in a small room along with other candidates. Okay, I believe we were like six, and that's actually quite few if you think about it. Meaning, with fewer people in the room with you, you can focus more. You're not overwhelmed by the presence of so many other candidates. I wasn't late. Obviously, you have to be there early. I think we were told to be there 30 minutes, but I was there very early. I think I was one of the earliest students to arrive at the center. So I think I was there 1 hour, okay, before my examination. Writing, the third examination was very convenient, okay, because um, I could try the internet interface of IELTS through through a website. So I think I had an idea about how it's going to look like, which I find really helpful as well. Okay, IELTS is never stingy when it comes to materials, when it comes to practice tests. So even with the interface, even how it's going to look like before you take the test, you'll have an idea. So it's not surprising so much when you eventually take the test. For speaking, you might find this very funny, but I'm quite confident with my ability to use the language, but I'm not very good at handling anxiety. So I remember speaking to one of the invigilators and then telling them how nervous I am as they guided me to the room of my speaking examination. I remember telling, okay, a skinny staff there. I told her how nervous I am and how I wanted to hold her hand before my exam for speaking, and she did, which was really helpful. They were all very friendly overall, Sir Irvin. That's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your actual examination experience. So as you can see, it's not as if it instigates fear, right? As long as you come to the examination knowing you are prepared because you have maximized the dashboard of 9.09er, you attended the live lectures, you answered the practice tests because they are downloadable and printable, and you maximized the daily one-on-one coaching, especially if you're going to follow the recommendation of Miss Anne. Look for Miss Isa in one-on-one coaching, I guess it's going to maximize your chances of getting the required band score in your first and last take. Now, before I ask Miss Anne the last question, like last few words of advice to IELTS candidates who are still reluctant, not really sure when they're going to take the examination, we have an important message here or important comment from Cyrus. Okay, let me read this to you guys. By the way, thank you, Sir Irvin. I'm a proud product of 9.09er in Alabang, Muntinlupa. Back then, 2010 to 2011. Guys, it's 2026 now. This is just a reminder of how many lives we have changed ever since we operated in 2007. So shout out to all our pastors ever since we started operating 9.09er in 2007. We are happy that we're able to help you in your journey. So we look forward to producing more pastors like Cyrus, like Nurse Sheena, and hopefully everyone in this Facebook Live session. Hopefully you are the next nurse that we are going to feature here on AMN Academy every Monday at 9 p.m. So for our last question, Nurse Sheena, last few words of advice to fellow nurses who are going to be future IELTS passers.
Hello to all future IELTS passers. All I want to say is just be consistent. Things are going to be harder than how you imagine it to be, most especially on your examination week. It's going to be very hard. Things will be very hard, but you have to be consistent with your review, consistent with your one-on-one coaching, and having that consistency in your heart to not be disheartened by a negative comment, by a low score, okay, or I don't know, maybe some emotional stress you have at work or with your personal life. Just be consistent and, continue with your review. Okay. Yeah, that's all, Sir Irvin. Consistency.
Yes, consistency is the key. Remember, guys, the goal is not perfection. The goal is for you to get the required band score so that AMN can help you go to the United States of America. Once again, we would like to thank Nurse Sheena for her time. I'm sure she's able to inspire people, especially for those who are afraid of the speaking subtest. Remember, you are not there to impress your examiner. You are just there to converse with the examiner and respond to the question. With the help of our one-on-one coaching and the free review offered by AMN, we are here to make sure that we are going to maximize your potential in getting the required band score. Guys, don't forget there is another show every Friday night. It's onwards and upwards. And mark your calendars. Every Monday, it's AMN Academy. First and third Monday of the month, it's the turn of 9.09er English to conduct live lectures or info sessions on the different subtests of IELTS. That's every first Monday of the month. And now it's the third Monday of the month. We have Nurse Sheena here who is sharing her actual examination experience to inspire and motivate fellow nurses. So in the future, you two are going to make it with flying colors. And don't forget, every second and fourth Monday of the month, it's the turn of NCLEX Review Center partners of AMN to give you free lessons on NCLEX. So 2 Mondays from now, we are thinking it might be the perfect time to celebrate the birthday of Sir Brian Martin Shelson. So we are looking forward to that next Facebook Live session over here on AMN Academy. For now, we would like to thank everyone who joined our session for tonight. And thank you, Ms. Milanes, for always facilitating our Facebook Live session. Thank you, guys, and we hope to see you in our next session. Good night and God bless. Bye-bye.